At 8 minutes, 8 seconds remaining in this planned built-in hold at T-minus 20 minutes and holding. This is shuttle launch control.
Step 907. All station on 212, all order systems verify program software, report only if any discrepancies. That's 8909 CNQC.
Copy. What do you see, CNSE?
Go ahead.
At this time, we can close step 374 as not performed.
Okay, CNQC, copy.
I copy.
FCO, NTD on 212 for com check.
NTD, FCO on 212, I have you loud and clear.
And I have you the same, thank you. CHGD, CGSS, and JBFX verify active on 212 and monitor 232 for remainder of count. CHGD.
HGD verifies.
CGSS.
CGSS verifies.
And JBFX.
FX, got it.
Thank you. And CCSE, OTC?
And CCSE.
Just checking again, PSP deact is not performed, right? That's firm. CNQC not performed on 952 and 953.
Copy.
This is shuttle launch control, T-minus 20 minutes and holding. The NASA test director, Jeff Spaulding, has just directed the launch team to begin migrating over to channel 212. That's the air-to-ground channel on which everybody will eventually be once we get into the terminal countdown sequence.
And attention all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the T-minus 20-minute briefing. Our launch window open time today is 15:10:39 GMT, and the window close will be 15:19:36. Our lock stream back hold time based on window open is 5 minutes 0 seconds, and if preferred is selected, our lock stream back hold time will be 3 minutes 38 seconds based on performance. All of our launch window lock stream back hold times will be updated and provided during T-minus 9-minute hold, and there are no launch window cutouts or COLAs today. PLT at T-minus 5 minutes, perform APU start upon command of OTC only.
PLT copies.
And CDR, our pad egress system is nominal, and our evac helipad is 9.
CDR copies, pad 9.
Firing room launch team, after T-minus 20 minutes, all problems or trends requiring a countdown clock hold will be reported to the NTD on 212 together with a recommendation. For any manual holds after T-minus 5 minutes, our countdown clock will continue until T-minus 31 seconds, unless the recommendation to hold at the next milestone is required. After T-minus 31 seconds, only cutoff is available and will result in a recycle of T-minus 20. For a cutoff, the ProWords CGLS cutoff will be used, and our GLS milestones are as listed. That concludes the T-minus 20-minute briefing.
NTD safety on 212.
Go safety.
Yes, sir. I'm still looking for step 877.
Yes, sir. I'll double check, but I think they still got a little bit of work to do on that.
I copy.
Security console, NTD on 212. Security console, NTD on 212.
Security, go ahead, sir.
Yes, security. security. Step 877, how are we doing on our non-essential personnel clear of the LDA?
Sir, we can verify LDA is clear of all non-essential personnel.
Okay, and that includes CCF and NDTL as well, correct?
Affirmative, sir.
Okay, and safety console with that, I'll give you 877.
I copy, sir. And with that, I can give you 1005.
OTC CTVD.
Go ahead.
I can give you 899.
Copy. Copy, thank you. And SRO, NTD, the KSC area is clear for launch. SRO, you copy? And attention all personnel, our countdown clock will resume in about 2 minutes. SRO, NTD on 212.
Go ahead.
Yes, our KSC area is clear for launch at this time.
Copy.
And Houston flight entity?
We are 1 minute now from picking up the countdown.
Attention all console operators, discontinue all LDB commands and reads.
As we come out of the hold, the Space Shuttle's onboard computers will transition into the terminal countdown configuration, and we'll dump the computer memory of one of the 4 primary computers on Atlantis so that we can look at it and make sure that the Ops 101, the primary ascent program, has been stored properly and has no unexpected results in that.
NTD STM? Go ahead.
Give you 1019.
Copy, 1019.
Coming out in 10 seconds.
Countdown clock will resume on my mark.
3, 2, 1, T-minus 20 minutes and counting.
20 minutes and counting.
OTC DPS.
DPS, go ahead.
Pass ops transition is complete. DPS ready for BFS transition ops 101.
Copy, 976.
That's firm.
CDR, OTC, air to ground 1.
Go ahead, OTC.
Clear pass fault sum and take BFS to ops 1 for your checklist.
CDR copies. We'll clear the path fault zone and take BFS to Ops 1 for the checklist. OTC, CDR.
Go ahead.
BFS to Ops 1 is complete.
Copy, step 91. PLT, OTC, air to ground 1.
Go ahead.
Perform horizontal sit config for your checklist.
And we'll put that in work.
And CDR, OTC, air to ground 1.
Go ahead, OTC.
Configure contingency abort yaw steer per your checklist.
That's in work.
NTD CVFS. NTD CVFS.
Go ahead, CVFS.
Ready for BFS uplink, step 991.
Copy. In flight, we're ready now for the BFS pre-flight uplink loading.
I copy NTD and we'll put that in work.
OTC, PLT.
Go ahead.
Horizontal sit config and config yaw abort steering is complete per the checklist.
I copy that and perform MPS helium reconfig.
That's in work.
The pilot is in the process of performing the main propulsion system helium system configuration. As we heard, this opens the helium isolation valves necessary for in-flight purges of the engines and provides an emergency source of pressure for a pneumatic shutdown of the engines.
290 amps. Copy and work.
NTD is in flight.
Go flight.
I can give you step 993. Our BFS pre-flight uplinks are complete.
I copy. CVFS, you copy that?
CVFS copies.
Water levels in the water spray boilers are about to be checked out and be verified that they're sufficient for the mission. And the helium system of the main propulsion system will be configured for launch.
And the countdown clock will hold in 3 minutes at T-minus 9 minutes. This OTC on 212. All personnel discontinue all non-mandatory LDB traffic for remainder of count. Up 1020.
"30 seconds from going into the built-in hold at T-minus 9. Going to the hold now in 3, 2, 1. T-minus 9 minutes and holding. This hold is 41 minutes, 38 seconds in duration.
Duration of hold is 41:39 based on window open.
Shuttle Weather Officer Kathy Winters reports that we may have an area of cloudiness over us at launch time that's coming in from the west, but it is not expected to be more than 1,500 feet thick, and that is below our constraint of 4,500 feet thick.
Copy.
And now for the readiness of Mission Control in Houston, we go to Kyle Herring at the Johnson Space Center.
Well, thanks, George, and good morning from the Johnson Space Center once again. This is Mission Control Houston at T-minus 9 minutes and holding. The ascent team has been on console once again since about 3 o'clock this morning and is under direction of Flight Director Steve Stitch, who's overseeing his second launch today. Handling communications with the crew aboard Atlantis throughout the morning and ascent is astronaut Tony Antonelli. Down the hall in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, a team led by veteran Flight Director Annette Hasbrook currently oversees activities aboard the complex as the Expedition 13 crew awaits the shuttle's arrival. The flight control team here in the shuttle flight control room is monitoring all of the systems aboard the shuttle along with the launch team at the Kennedy Space Center, and should shortly notify the flight director it's ready to support a launch from a systems standpoint today. The ascent team has spent much of the morning evaluating all of the orbiter systems and also weather conditions at the launch site in the event of an emergency return to the 3-mile-long shuttle landing facility west of the launch pad. The team also evaluates weather at contingency runways in Spain and in France. At present, some of the cloud cover that George mentioned just a moment ago is over the shuttle landing facility area, and astronaut Steve Lindsay is evaluating that from a performance standpoint in the case of a return to launch site abort, and so those conditions are currently being evaluated, as are the latest weather forecasts at the overseas sites. Currently, there are 2 transoceanic abort landing sites that are favorable for this morning's launch. Morón in Spain is set up to be the primary transoceanic abort landing site, with Istris in southeastern France being the backup or available if necessary. Once Atlantis lifts off, its onboard guidance system will maneuver the orbiter to a heads-down position that will put it on the proper course and trajectory to achieve the desired orbit. At main engine cutoff, Atlantis will be in a highly elliptical 137 by 36 statute mile orbit. That orbit will be refined about 30 minutes later when the twin orbital maneuvering system engines on the tail of the vehicle will fire to more circularize the orbit in a 143 by 116 statute mile orbit for the orbital operations. The launch itself actually serves as the first in a series of rendezvous burns designed to allow Atlantis to catch up with the International Space Station. Docking currently is scheduled for about 6:45 Eastern Time Monday morning. At launch time, the International Space Station will be located over the North Atlantic at an altitude of 220 statute miles. At present, the station is traveling south of Australia, beginning a swing across the Pacific Ocean that will align it straight over the Kennedy Space Center just before the launch time. After liftoff, about 30 seconds into the flight, Atlantis' 3 main engines will be throttled back to lessen the effects of the dense lower atmosphere on the orbiter, and less than a minute later, the acceleration will take Atlantis up to a speed of nearly 3,700 miles per hour at the point when the twin solid rocket boosters burn out and separate, that coming at 2 minutes 5 seconds. Once in orbit, Atlantis' 3 main engines will be shut down at the 8.5-minute point, followed just a few seconds later by the separation of the large external fuel tank. The crew on board will photograph and videotape the tank as it falls away from Atlantis, and later will transmit those images along with digital still images taken from a camera mounted in Atlantis on the underside of Atlantis. Those all to be evaluated by imagery experts in the mission evaluation room above the flight control room here in Mission Control to determine the integrity of the thermal protection system across the first 6 days of the flight. The crew also will check out the functionality of the robotic arm before its operational use Sunday to look at the wing leading edge panels up close to fold that into any damage assessment that the imagery team needs before clearing the vehicle. All continues to go smoothly here in Mission Control, with flight controllers ready to take over control of Atlantis' mission at liftoff. And that's it from here, George. We'll toss it back to you and the launch team in Florida for the remaining minutes of the countdown through liftoff at T-minus 9 minutes and holding. This is Mission Control, Houston.
Copy. And Houston flight NTD?
NTD Houston flight.
Okay, launch directors are ready for discussion with you on 231 for window determination.
Okay, I'll put that in work.
And we have 35 minutes, 45 seconds remaining in this plan built-in hold.
PLT, OTC, air to ground 1.
Go ahead.
Clear hardware, caution, warning memory, and verify no unexpected errors.
That's in work. OTC, PLT.
Go ahead.
Caution, warning, memory clear, no unexpected lights.
Copy, step 1048. CDR, OTC, air to ground 1.
Go ahead.
Configure CRTs for ascent.
That's in work.
NTD Launch Director 212.
This is NTD on 212.
Okay, Jeff, talked to the flight director, and we've concluded that we should launch at the preferred time today. If you would put that in work, please.
Okay, we'll do that. And I'm not sure if you copied, but we're working on an issue with backup generator out at the SLF on a ball bar feeder. And we do have two good feeders still feeding from facility power, but this is the backup generator that we also have in place. So they're talking at 161, and we're sending some folks out to take a look at it.
Okay, copy that. Backup generator, so no constraint to launch, right?
And I believe that to be true, but we're double checking.
Okay, standing by.
Yeah, I think this is with our redundancy in our power feeds. I think we're fine. I think this is a third leg of redundancy. I think we're fine with our backup power.
Okay, copy that and agree. And once you confirm that, if you'd let us know, please.
We will.
Houston Flight also advises they're not working anything. They're keeping an eye on the return to launch site weather forecast as these clouds around begin to set in. But at the moment, they're not forecast to be greater than 1,500 feet thick, and the area to the west is thinning some. But it will be a little bit later before Spaceflight Meteorology Group in Houston can give a go forecast. And KSC weather is go. We have 28 minutes remaining in this built-in hold. At T-minus 9 minutes in holding, this is shuttle launch control.
Houston Flight NTD. Houston Flight NTD.
NTD Houston Flight.
Yes, I'd like to see if there are any updates to any of our launch window times and or our holdback times.
No updates to the launch window or the drainback hold time.
Okay, copy that, and we'll go ahead and initiate putting the preferred time in place.
I copy NTD, and just so you know, the G1 launch target uplink will not be required on page 1174 and 1175.
Thank you. And OTC, TBC, PTC, LPS, MILA, STM, Safety Console, SPE, LRD, SRO, CDR, and GLS. Our final launch window opening, we have selected the preferred time, and that launch time will now be 15:14:55 GMT, and that time will close at 15:19:36 GMT. And that'll give us a lock stream back hold time of 3 minutes 38 seconds, which will be our constrainer. And our window length now is 4 minutes and 41 seconds. OTC, you copy?
OTC copies.
TBC?
TBC copies.
PTC?
PTC copies.
And LPS?
LPS copy.
MILA?
Mila copy.
STM?
STM copies.
Safety?
Safety copies.
SPE?
SPE copies.
LRD?
LRD copies.
SRO?
SRO copies.
CDR?
CDR copies.
And CGLS?
GLS copies.
And GLS, let me give you a new T-9 resume of 15:05:55.
GLS copies, and that's already done.
Thank you. GOIS, NTD.
This is GOS. Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. Step 1037. Do you have that data for us?
Yes, I do. Right now we are down one camera. That's E213, engineer item 213. We still meet all of our minimum criteria. And if you're ready, I'll give you the fill-ins.
Okay, I'm ready to copy.
Long range north, 6. Long range south, 7. Medium range north, 5. Medium range south, 4. Medium range west, 6. Short range, 6.
Okay, I copy all. And I'm assuming no additional change to UCS 7, right?
No additional change to UCS 7 at this time.
Okay, very good, thank you. And launch director, NTD.
This launch director, go ahead, NTD.
Okay, our ground camera system is ready to go and support launch. No difference as far as UCS 7 goes. That's still not up and not expected to be up, but we do have all of our capability in place beyond all of our minimums as is listed in 1037.
Okay, I copy that, and I appreciate the update.
Copy.
That report about Universal Camera Site 7, which is just to the east of the launch pad, and they're having a telemetry problem with that site, but it's not going to be a factor because of the numerous sites around the launch pad. Still gives them the visibility that they need, that's required in the launch criteria.
Air to ground 1.
OTC, go ahead.
Activate V10 recorder.
That's at work.
It's 1064, so confusing.
Copy. NTD.
This NTD?
Yes, IPR 433 on the failed backup generator.
Okay.
We had a discussion on that one, and we feel comfortable with the 2 utility feeds that we have, plus the generator. One of those utility feeds is also on C5, which has a generator in case we have a failure there as well, so we've got plenty of redundancy. So we feel very comfortable with power going out to that unit. My understanding is the generator is failed at this time, and they are trying to see if they can get it restarted. In addition, we do have what might be a File 6 violation. It's the wording in here just says make a verification that the generator is operational. Looks like it's a one-time check. There's no time limit on here, so I need to talk to the LCC voters. But other than that, we are good to go at this time. It's not a constraint to launch.
Okay, and I guess question for you, or maybe even for the STM and stuff, is how long are we going to let the folks continue to troubleshoot this before? I guess there would be some concern at some point to try to tie in the generator back into the system because we don't want to cause a hiccup in the power system. And what, if anything, we're doing to the? Are we just working on the generator itself, or are we swapping it out?
They're not swapping it out. There's not enough time to swap out any spare or anything
Okay.
like that. It's just trying to get the one that failed back on, see if they can get it back online.
Okay, and do we have a time cutoff as when we don't want these guys to continue to work, or are we just going to continue to work through launch, etc.? And my first assumption is we don't certainly want to be doing this after T-9, but maybe I'm not thinking clearly on that.
We did not discuss a timeline, so we do not have a time constraint on this one.
STM entity, are you with us here?
Yeah, it's STM.
Okay. Did you guys have a thought on how long you're going to continue to work on that generator, or is there any impacts of tying that, bringing that generator up? I'm assuming it's isolated from the rest of the system, and I just want to know how long you're going to continue to troubleshoot that.
We're getting word on 161 that it's back online. It was off due to a low fuel indication. We'll have an update for you here in a moment.
Okay, we'll be standing by.
OTC CHCD.
Spaceflight Meteorology Group is getting comfortable enough with the observed conditions that they're having enough confidence to take the chance of rain showers out of the SLF forecast for return to launch site. And right now we're observe go for launch and observe go for return to launch site. "26 minutes, 15 seconds remaining the planned built-in hold at T-9. Just to clarify the discussion, the backup generator for the Bulbar visual navigational aid at shuttle landing facility, that is not going to be a constraint for launch.
OTC CGLS 212.
OTC?
We were just looking for confirmation that the depletion sensor checkout was complete.
Yes, that was.
Thank you, sir.
NATDFT?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Yes, did you get the word that the backup generator is up and running at this time? They found a faulty low fuel sensor, and the generator does have plenty of fuel in it. It is up and running, has been up and running, and the guys will be backing out in less than 5 minutes.
Okay, copy that. And then with that, can we clear the constraint?
Yes, with that we can clear the constraint.
Okay, very good. Work by all those folks.
Entity Launch Director 212.
Go ahead, Launch Director.
Sir, is your, give me a status here on constraints list, please.
Currently, with the clearing of that last one that we just talked, we have 0 constraints open at this time.
That last one was the ball bar issue?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
.22 minutes, 23 seconds remaining in the built-in hold at T-9. The communications channels here in firing room 4 are quiet. There is nothing to talk about at this point. Our overseas landing sites will be Maroon, with Istres in France as our backup. Zaragoza has a threat of thunderstorms. And at this time, there is nothing in discussion that would appear to preclude us from picking up at T-9 minutes.
NTD Houston Flight.
Go ahead.
We do have an ascent data update for the crew per step 1057.
Okay, I copy that. And let's see, OTC and STM, we got some updates for the crew here. We're going to let flight proceed. Okay, understand. And flight, you have a go.
Copy.
Atlantis, Houston, with updates for the TAL sites.
Go ahead, Houston, we're ready.
Okay, we're going to leave Marone as prime. The wind change there is 270 at 10 peak 15. The breakdown is 4 peak 6 head, 9 peak 14 from the right.
Atlantis copies.
And then at press, we will select Istris. And for Istris, it'll be NOM short field. The winds are 180 at 12, peak 18.
Okay, copy. At press, we'll select Istris, and if we go there, we'll expect NOM in short field.
That's a good copy, and that's all of our updates.
We copy, thanks.
We are now 25 minutes from the launch of Space Shuttle Atlantis. We have 15 minutes, 47 seconds remaining in the built-in hold at T-minus 9 minutes. Our long-range optical sites on Cape Canaveral National Seashore and Patrick Air Force Base report they are ready to support. And our wideband Doppler radar tracking system, consisting of a large C-band radar on North Kennedy Space Center, working together with X-band radars on ships offshore, report that they're ready for launch today. They look for any debris along with the optical systems that might come off the shuttle during launch, particularly the external tank. One of those X-band radars is on the Freedom Star, one of the SRB retrieval ships, and the other X-band radar is on the USNS Hayes, tracking from a location about 90 miles to the south. The shuttle training aircraft has been sent to reconnoiter an area of cloudiness around the shuttle landing facility that could be a ceiling constraint. They're going to take a look at it. Right now we're still carrying green on observed conditions. But we need to verify that it's not a constraint for return to launch site or for range optics, range visibility. So the shuttle training aircraft is going to take a look at that. That possibility of a ceiling developing was passed on to the shuttle weather officer by the regular weather observer stationed in the control tower at the shuttle landing facility.
OTC CPBD.
DVD, go ahead.
Yeah, I can give you 1061, but I'm not performed on 1058.
Okay, CNQC, you copy?
That's firm.
NTD STL.
Go ahead.
Generator techs are clear of the area.
Okay, we copy, thanks. CISL, JRPS, and Houston Flight perform the L-15 recorder activation, ISL.
ISL copies.
JRPS,
JRPS.
and Houston Flight.
Houston flight copies. We'll put it in work.
Thank you.
The shuttle training aircraft reports that appears to be an improving situation at the shuttle landing facility that
OTC is
appears
go.
to be less than our ceiling constraints.
TTC is go.
LPS.
LPS go.
Houston flight.
Houston flight is go.
Mila.
And Mila's go for launch.
STM.
STM go.
Safety console.
Safety go.
SPE.
SB's go.
LRD.
LRD is go.
SRO.
SRO is go. You have range clear to launch.
And CDR.
CDR's go.
Copy. And Launch Director NTD, the launch team is ready to proceed.
I copy that. I'll do my poll at this time. Chief Engineer, verify no constraints to launch.
DCR team is go.
Thank you, Charlie. KC Safety and Mission Assurance.
KSC SNMA is go.
Thank you, Lana. Payload Launch Manager.
Mike, the space station team's looking forward to getting back in the assembly business. We're go for launch.
Copy that, Bill. Thank you. Range weather.
Weather has no constraints for launch.
Copy, Kathy. Thank you. And Ops Manager.
Launch Director, Ops Manager, the mission management team is not working any issues, Mike. It's a good day to fly. You're clear to launch.
Copy. Thank you. Atlantis, Launch Director.
Go ahead, Launch Director.
Well, Brent, looks like your long wait is over. And so for you, Fergie, Joe T., Dan, Steve, and Zena, we wish you all the best luck in the world. Godspeed, and we'll see you back here in about 2 weeks.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate those words and the effort to make this launch window. You know, by our count, it's been almost 4 years, 2 return to flight missions, a tremendous amount of work by thousands of individuals to get the shuttle program back to where we are right now, and that's on the verge of restarting the station assembly sequence. We're confident that over the next few weeks and few years, for that matter, that NASA's going to prove to our nation, our partners, and our friends around the world that it was worth the wait and the sacrifice. We're ready to get to work.
Thank you, Brent. Great words, and good luck, guys. NTD, with that, you are clear to launch this vehicle.
Copy. Thank you.
3 minutes remaining in the built-in hold.
And attention all personnel, our countdown clock will resume in 3 minutes.
NTD ISL.
Go ISL.
Yes, sir. Recorder activation is complete.
Copy. The countdown clock will resume in 1 minute.
Once we come out of the hold in 1 minute, the ground launch sequencer, which is the primary launch computer here in the firing room, will be controlling the countdown until it hands off to Atlantis' onboard computers at T-minus 31 seconds. The ground launch sequencer will check over 1,000 parameters on the vehicle until that handshake with Atlantis' computers occurs. 15 seconds to coming out of the hold.
Countdown clock will resume on my mark.
3, 2, 1. T-minus 9 minutes and counting. Ground launch sequencer now controlling.
Auto sequence has been initiated.
There is an optional hold at T-minus 5 minutes, should that be necessary. That's at the point where the auxiliary power units would be activated. And they do have a limited run time once that starts.
PLT OTC, connect the central buses to fuel cells per your checklist.
OTC, that's in work. OTC, that's complete.
Copy.
Standing by now to retract the orbiter access arm. It can be put back into position in about 30 seconds if an emergency arises.
TLS is go for orbiter access arm retract.
Atlantis OTC, it's been a long road with a lot of detours, but your patience is about to be rewarded. It's time to fly.
Thanks, OTC, we're ready.
It was orbiter test conductor Jeff Laufer.
JRPS OTC, start APU display recorders. Recorders are running. PLT OTC, perform APU pre-start.
That's in work. OTC, APU pre-start complete. 3 gray talkbacks.
I copy.
T-minus 6 minutes. 6 minutes to launch. Also at T-minus 5 minutes, the firing chain will be activated and the range safety systems on the vehicle will be activated. And the pilot will start the orbiter's auxiliary power units. T-minus 5 minutes. 5 minutes to launch.
Orbiter APU start.
PLT OTC, perform APU start.
That's in work.
CDR OTC, reconfigure heaters.
Heater reconfig is complete. OTC APU start is complete.
OTC copy.
Coming up, we'll have a steering check of the orbiter's flight control systems and of the 3 main engines. T-minus 4 minutes, 4 minutes to launch.
Yeah, let's go for purge sequence 4.
T-minus 3 minutes, 3 minutes to launch.
CLS go for ET LO2 pressurization.
DLT OTC, clear caution warning memory, verify no unexpected errors.
OTC caution and warning memory are clear, no unexpected errors.
Copy. Atlantis OTC, close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow.
That's it, Mark.
T-minus 2 minutes, 2 minutes to launch.
CLS go for ET LH2 pressurization.
One minute, 30 seconds.
T-minus 1 minute and counting. Standing by for the handoff from the firing room computer to the Atlantis ground launch or onboard computers, ground launch sequencer to the onboard flight computers. And the handoff has occurred. Atlantis's computers now controlling.
25. 20.
Firing chain is armed. Sound suppression water system activated.
10.
Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. 3 main engines up and burning. 2, 1, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis, opening a new chapter in the completion of the International Space Station for the collaboration of nations in space.
Roll program.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Houston is now controlling. Roll maneuver is underway. Atlantis is heading into a heads down position on course for a 51.6 degree, 137 by 36 statute mile orbit. Atlantis already 2 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center at an altitude of 2.8 statute miles. Engines now at 72%, beginning to throttle back up as the vehicle passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure.
Atlantis, Houston, go at throttle up.
Copy, go at throttle up.
All 3 liquid-fueled engines are back at full throttle. 1 minute, 20 seconds into the flight. At liftoff, the fully fueled shuttle, boosters and external tank weighed about 4.5 million pounds. It now has burned half of that weight in propellant. Solid rocket boosters are burning 11,000 pounds of propellant every second. Coming up on 1 minute 45 seconds. Standing by for first stage separation of the solid rocket boosters. Atlantis is at an altitude of 129,000 feet, 24 miles in altitude, 25 miles downrange. All 3 engines are still performing as expected. SRB separation and staging confirmed. All 3 electrically producing fuel cells are operating as expected, as are the hydraulic systems, the auxiliary power units. Two orbital maneuvering system engines on the tail of Atlantis now assisting with the ascent performance. Those engines will burn for a little less than 3 minutes. 2 minutes 45 seconds. Atlantis 61 miles from the Kennedy Space Center.
Atlantis, Houston, 2-engine Marone.
Copy, 2-engine Marone.
Atlantis can reach Marone in Spain in the event of a single engine failure. However, all 3 are still operating as expected.
Atlantis, Houston for Brent, high load duct heater to Alpha/Bravo.
High load duct heater Alpha/Bravo.
Good copy, and we're seeing some ice in the high load fess.
Copy, we'll watch it.
That call relating to the flash evaporator system of one of the auxiliary power units. However, they're all working properly. 3.5 minutes into the launch, 108 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center. Atlantis still performing as expected, 54 miles in altitude or 293,000 feet. Now traveling 4,400 miles per hour.
Atlantis, Houston, negative return.
Copy, negative return.
Atlantis can no longer return to the Kennedy Space Center now in the event of an engine failure. However, all 3 are in excellent shape. Flight control team is continuing to evaluating the flash evaporator system.
L1, Fespri Alpha to off, back to GPC.
Okay, we'll cycle Fes A off, then back to GPC.
Good copy.
That to cycle the flash evaporator system. Again, all auxiliary power units still working fine, as are the electricity producing fuel cells. 4 minutes 45 seconds into the launch. Atlantis is at an altitude of 65 statute miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center, 225 miles, traveling 7,000 miles per hour. Discussions on the flight loop relative to the flash evaporator system. The suspect, a little bit of water in that unit, but all continues to work smoothly otherwise. 5 minutes, 20 seconds into the flight.
Atlantis, Houston, press to ATO, select Istris.
Press to ATO, select Istris.
Atlantis can reach orbit on 2 engines should one fail now. Again, all 3 still working fine.
Houston, single engine ops 3.
Single engine ops 3.
Approaching 6 minutes into the flight. Atlantis is now rolling to a heads-up position, traveling 9,400 miles per hour, 352,000 feet in altitude, or 66 miles, downrange from the launch site, 390 miles. A little less than 2.5 minutes of powered flight remaining, all systems still operating as expected.
Atlantis, Houston, press to MECO, and we're seeing good cooling on FES-Pri Alpha.
Copy, press to MECO.
That call means that Atlantis can reach a safe orbit on 2 engines now. Again, all 3 are still working fine.
In Houston, we see a nominal shutdown plan.
Atlantis, Houston, we concur. Your shutdown plan is nominal. Your go for the plus X, go for the pitch.
Copy, nominal shutdown, go plus X, go pitch.
Good copy, and you are single engine press 104.
Single engine press 104.
7 minutes, 20 seconds into the flight. Atlantis can reach orbit on 1 engine now, should 2 fail. Again, all 3 still in good shape. The call from astronaut Tony Antonelli here in the flight control room, a nominal shutdown plan, means that all of the scheduled activities post main engine cutoff are as expected, to photograph the external tank as it falls away from the orbiter. Brent Jett in the forward left seat. Chris Ferguson, the pilot of the mission, in the forward right seat. Dan Burbank between them and behind them. And Canadian astronaut Steve McLean behind pilot Chris Ferguson. Down on the middeck, Joe Tanner closest to the side hatch of the orbiter, and Heidi Stefanish Piper in the down on the middeck with Tanner. Engines beginning to throttle back to lessen the aerodynamic loads on the vehicle as it approaches main engine cutoff. Standing by for that call. And main engine cutoff has been confirmed. ET separation confirmed. Atlantis now off of the external tank. Commander Brent Jett will fire the pulse the engines on Atlantis to position it for photography of the tank as it falls away. Beautiful view of Atlantis as it falls away from the tank. You can see the jets firing those reaction control system jets to position the orbiter.
Atlantis, Houston, nominal MECO, OHMS 1 is not required, and no action on the cabin DPDT.
Nominal MECO, OHMS 1 not required, and no action on the DPDT. Thanks, Houston.
Space Shuttle Atlantis safely back in space for the first time since October of 2002. Traveling 17,500 miles per hour, downrange from the launch site 1,200 miles. Mission specialist Joe Tanner down on the middeck will be grabbing a Kodak 760 camera that will take the still photos of the external tank. Steve McLean up on the flight deck will grab a camcorder and document the external tank with video. All of that in the few minutes while Atlantis is slowly separating from the external tank after separation just moments ago. The launch of Atlantis on time at 10:14 and 55 seconds this morning Central Time. The launch team back at the Kennedy Space Center congratulating one another on the safe launch. The ascent team here beginning to watch over the crew's shoulders through the post-insertion timeline.
People get into new positions, significant new positions. I'd like to perform that ceremony today for Angie
Flight
Brewer,
Director
our new
Steve
director
Stitch,
for
who was
Atlantis.
overseeing his first launch today, talking with flight controllers about all of the systems. Everything is in good working shape during launch. The belief was with the flash evaporator system that a little bit of water got into that system. It was cycled by Commander Brent Jett during the launch and appears to be working fine at this time. There's good cooling on all of the auxiliary power units and all of the orbiter avionics systems. Atlantis now safely in orbit. The next major orbital maneuvering rendezvous maneuver will be to more circularize Atlantis's orbit. Currently, it's in a 137 by 36 statute mile orbit. That will be circularized in the next 25 minutes or so by the OMS 2 burn, or orbital maneuvering system engine burn, which will circularize the orbit at 143 by 116 statute miles.
Commentator.
Houston, we see the dump complete. Here come the Hyde MPS TVC ISOLs.
Atlantis, we copy and we're watching.
Mechanical Systems Officer reports good cooling on the vehicle, as with the environmental systems as well.
Houston, we're ready for APU Hyde shutdown if you are.
Atlantis, Houston, we are ready for APU Hyde shutdown.
Copy.
That call from Tony Antonelli here in Mission Control to Commander Brent Jett and the crew aboard Atlantis, indicating that it's we see good cooling on all of the systems on board. The crew is given a go to shut down the auxiliary power units. Those hydraulic systems not needed again until the day or before landing, when one of those will be checked out to support re-entry and landing activities. While on orbit, these hydraulic systems are not required. All of the fuel cells were very stable during the launch. All three were basically registering the same kilowatts of power output as expected.
Atlantis, Houston, with deltas to page 3-4.
And we're ready to copy those deltas.
Atlantis, tail-only control is not required. We'll take the rest as written. We'll be ready for Ops 105 when you get there. We believe the cabin DPDT message was just a MECO transient. Your preliminary OMS 2 TIG is 3716, and we're still looking at the targets.
Okay, Houston, we're still shooting pictures right now. Tail-only control is not required. The rest is written. You'll be ready for 105. We copy the Ohms 2, take 3716, and you're still working targets.
Good copy.
And the crew basically being given updates in the ascent checklist. As Brent Jett reported, they're still taking pictures of the external tank. A little more than 16 minutes since launch. All of the systems aboard the vehicle are in good shape. The auxiliary power units now have been shut down. And as Tony Antonelli reported to the crew, the time for the orbital maneuvering system burn to more circularize Atlantis' orbit is about 20 minutes away.
Atlantis, Houston, will be unable to speak to you for a minute in 1 minute due to spreading.
Okay, we copy that, Houston. Houston Atlantis for the MS-1 A12 steps. It'll be just another moment before we get on those. Both Joe and Steve are working the ET photo stuff right now, and they're off cam.
And Dan, we copy, and we'll be ready when you get there.
Houston, on page 3-6, we can begin working the MPS power down ISO on the GH2 inerting.
Atlantis, Houston, back with you after spreading. Fergie, we are ready for page 3-6.
Okay, that's in work.
Chris Ferguson, no longer a rookie astronaut on his first flight into space, now working the main propulsion system power down and isolation procedures in the ascent checklist. The other first-time space traveler on this flight, Heidi Stephanician Piper, serving as mission specialist 4 on this flight.
Houston Atlantis, we're just about done with the photos. When you get the targets on board, we'll be ready to load and maneuver.
Atlantis, we copy, and we need just a little bit more time.
We copy, Tony. Just give us a call.
Atlantis, Houston for Brent and the OMS 2 targets. We are going to go with your onboard targets and your onboard TIG. We are ready for you to load.
Okay, we'll load per the bottom of page 3-5.
And that's a good copy.
Spacecraft communicator Tony Antonelli reporting to Brent Jett, the commander aboard Atlantis on his fourth voyage into space, that the targets that are shown in the computers on board are ready to be loaded. That means that he can load those targets for the orbital maneuvering system engine burn upcoming a little more than 15 minutes from now. Crew wrapping up the photo documentation of the external tank, that coming at a distance of about 1,400 feet or so between the two vehicles.
Houston, we're complete on page 3-6 and ready for ET umbilical door closure if you are.
Atlantis, Houston for Fergie. We are ready for ET umbilical door closure.
And pilot Chris Ferguson putting into work the closure of the umbilical well doors that were open where the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen lines entered the underside of the space shuttle near the tail. Once those doors are closed and latched, they will remain so for the duration of the flight.
Yeah, Houston, Atlantis is complete with the ET photography. We're ready to maneuver to the OMS 2 attitude on your call.
Atlantis, Houston, we see you complete with the photos, and we are ready for the maneuver.
Here it comes. And Houston, Fergie's got the doors closed. We show ourselves done through 3-7. We're at the top of 3-8. If you could check our workforce.
Atlantis, Houston, we concur. We show you at the top of 3-8 as well. And there are no deltas to OMS burn prep.
Copy, we'll put that in work.
Commander Brent Jett and the crew of Atlantis continue to work through the ascent checklist. Page 3-8 is the orbital maneuvering system engine burn preparation cue card. Flight Director Steve Stitch polling several of his flight control position on any changes in relation to the preparation for that burn. There are no changes here in the room. The burn clock counting down 11 minutes from the orbital maneuvering system burn.
Atlantis, Houston with the OMS 2 tag up.
Go ahead, Houston.
Atlantis, we have no deltas to the OMS 2 burn card and no deltas to the burn monitor card. And an update on the cooling, FES-Pri Alpha is showing good cooling. We think we just had a little bit of water when we started off.
Okay, copy, no deltas. That's real good news about the cooling. We've been watching it closely as well. We'll tag up with you as we go onto the card as usual.
Okay, we copy that. And if I wasn't crystal clear earlier, we showed the ET umbilical doors closed with no deltas.
That was clear. Thank you, Tony.
Ascent spacecraft communicator Tony Antonelli updating the crew on a number of items, including the flash evaporator system that showed suspect cooling in the early stages of ascent. It's something that obviously has been seen before and was worked accordingly during the launch phase. Apparently had a little bit of water in that flash evaporator system early on. Possibly some ice that prevented the cooling. It settled down and is operating just fine now. The external tank umbilical doors are closed and latched properly. The crew is moving on to the orbital maneuvering system engine burn to concentrate on that activity, with the clocks counting down to that burn in a little more than 7.5 minutes. Atlantis' safe launch this morning puts the orbiter back into space for the first time since October of 2002. It also puts the assembly of the International Space Station back on track, as Atlantis is on a 2-day rendezvous path to rendezvous and dock with the space station on Monday, in preparation for resumption of assembly of the orbiting complex. 31 minutes into the flight of Atlantis and the STS-115 mission, the 116th voyage of the space shuttle and the 27th mission for Atlantis. Underway with a normal ascent, a couple of minor issues going uphill, but nothing of any significance relative to the safe launch of Atlantis. And next up on NASA TV will be the traditional replay of various launch views of Atlantis as it headed to orbit.
Atlantis, we copy you going to the burn card. We are going to hand over to Z in 3 minutes.
Copy.
We're ready to head back to the Kennedy Space Center now as the crew is preparing for the orbital maneuvering system burn for the launch replays from Atlantis, safe launch of the orbiter 33 minutes ago.
Atlantis, Houston, back with you after the handover. You are in a good config for OMS 2.
Copy, good config for OMS 2.
This is Mission Control Houston. While we're enjoying launch replays, the orbital maneuvering system engine burn is underway. Both engines burning for a little more than 2 minutes to more circularize Atlantis' orbit.
Atlantis, Houston, good ohms 2 burn, no trim required.
Copy, Houston, going to post ohms 2.
Atlantis is now in a 177 by 142 statute mile orbit.
We'll take the ohms gimbal check and the post-burn reconfig as written.
Copy, 5-2 as written.
Good copy.
Now that the orbital maneuvering system engine burn is complete, the crew will be shortly moving from the ascent checklist into the post-insertion checklist that will cover the next hour and a half or so of the mission. That concludes with the opening of the shuttle's payload bay doors. That's scheduled for about an hour and a half or so into the flight.
We see the gimbal check complete. We'll be ready for Ops 106 when you get there.
Copy, here it comes. Houston, we show ourselves complete with the ascent checklist. We're going to post insertion.
Atlantis, we concur, and we have a couple of big picture things when you get post insertion open.
Here.
Tony, go ahead on the big picture for post insertion. We've got the book out.
Atlantis, Brent, in Block 1, Step 4, will be dual G2 as written. And then just for your essay, the TIG that we're working to for the NC1 burn is still 2 hours and 56 minutes MET, and that's why we're going dual G2.
Okay, that all makes sense, Tony. We're starting into the circuit breaker actions on L4 in post insertion.
Atlantis, we copy.
A little more than 45 minutes into Atlantis' mission, still enjoying the launch replays from the Kennedy Space Center as the crew now has stepped into the post-insertion timeline. That checklist shows the crew's next major activity to be configuring the onboard computers, the general purpose computers or GPCs for the OPS-2 transition. That OPS-2 transition is simply transitioning the onboard software from the ascent phase, which is OPS-1, to the on-orbit phase, which is OPS-2.
Houston, Atlantis, Block 3 is in work.
Houston copies. Block 3 in work.
Block 3 in the post-insertion checklist is the configuration for the aft flight station now that the crew is on orbit. Part of that activity includes beginning to put the mission specialist seats away. Those seats will not be required until landing day. And also configuring the onboard communications and instrumentation system, primarily on the aft portion of the flight deck.
Houston, here comes the transition to Ops 2 and Step 4.
Atlantis, we like the MBAT. We're ready for Ops 2.
And in the meantime, Commander Brent Jett and pilot Chris Ferguson now transitioning the onboard computers, the GPCs, the general purpose computers, to Ops 2. That's from the ascent phase of Ops 1 to the on-orbit phase known as Ops 2.
Houston, in Step 6, we're ready to transition GPC 4 to SM Ops 201.
Atlantis, we are ready for the SM to Ops 2.
Houston, Atlantis from the middeck. Block 2 is complete.
Atlantis, Houston copies Block 2 complete.
Houston, Atlantis, com check and handheld mic.
Atlantis, Houston, we have you loud and clear on the handheld mic.
We got you the same.
Houston, we're in step 9 of block 1.
Houston copies step 9 of Block 1.